February 8th, 2021 meeting of the Rockingham County Planning Board will come to order. At this time, members, if you would please review the minutes of the last meeting for approval. And I ask you at this time to pay particular attention to the minutes from case number 2021-01, since this case will be a continuation of the evidentiary hearing heard at the last planning board meeting. Refresh your memories in this manner, please.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the minutes of the January 11th, 2021 meeting as written. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. There being no opposition, the minutes are approved. And now the board calls upon Mr. James Harris for our invocation. Oh, I forgot that.
Right. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we can meet tonight for our February 8th Rockingham County Planning Board meeting. Let us review all the cases being presented before us. Let us make decisions that will be beneficial to our county and to the contesting parties. And Lord, just be with us all evening. We ask these things in precious name. Amen.
Any revisions to the agenda? I think what I would like to do here is put the procedures for the planning board between cases 1 and 2 as listed on the agenda. The procedures for the quasi-judicial hearing for case number 2021 have been read and are in the record. So there's really no point in repeating them.
Do we need that in a motion?
No, I don't think so. We can just go ahead and adopt the agenda.
Okay.
We need a motion to do that, please.
How about to adopt the agenda?
Seconded. The motion has been made and seconded to adopt the agenda. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. There being no opposition, the agenda is adopted. We're going to get right to special use permit for case number 2021. As I said previously, the procedures for the quasi-judicial hearing have been read into the record. Mr. Wright, are you present? If you would, please come forward.
Yes, sir.
And I remind you that you're still under oath.
Yes, sir.
The way we left things at the last meeting, you were going to furnish us with some
Yes, sir.
documentation regarding restrictive covenants.
Yes, sir.
And do you have such information with you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Could you please?
From Mr. Madry, Joe Madry.
Thank you, James.
Glasses broke all the way over here. Gotta get them fixed tomorrow.
Just like it. Keep
If you pass this down, John, would you like to take a look at this? Okay. I'm going to read this letter into the record. It's from Joseph G. Madry, attorney at law, 610 Henry Street, Eden, North Carolina. And just as a point of general information, Joe Madry is certified by the North Carolina State Bar as a specialist in residential property. Dear Mr. Wright, the property you purchased February 20th, 2016, copy of deed attached on Michelle Lane does not have restrictions. There were prior restrictions, copy attached, but paragraph 14 stated they were to expire 40 years from October 1st, 1971, which means they expired on October 1st, 2011. So the issue of the restrictions appears to be resolved by this letter. That brings us to the next issue in this case, which concerns me personally, and that is that we would be, and Carrie, I'm going to look for you to a little help here, that we might be committing spot zoning here.
There are, in your consistency statement,
I'm sorry, I didn't.
the consistency statement that you have in your staff report includes issues that would address spot zoning. For, as far as what the statutory requirements are, Paul, do you, what is your concern? Just tell me what you're thinking about.
Well, I'm looking for that statement now.
Which section is that in?
What concerns me, I guess, is that the legal doctrine behind spot zoning is that we're singling out a property for special treatment than is more unusual or than under the zoning ordinance. But if you claim that we
John, do you have an opinion?
As far as, the question is spot zoning?
That's what, yeah, Paul is concerned about spot zoning with this parcel.
Well, I think there had to be many other requirements that are met as far as consistency with the surrounding area, the zoning there, and what type of hardship, if any, would it place on any surrounding properties. I think there's multiple aspects that need to be considered to ensure that it's not a spot zoning.
I think too that we're talking more about a building type. This special use permit is required because of the request for building type that's a manufactured modular or manufactured home rather than a stick-built home. But it doesn't change the use. We're not asking for a change from single-family residential zoning. Therefore, it doesn't bother me as much, Paul. I want to hear you out, but I think that's my opinion is because we're talking more about a change in building type that the spot zoning rules are not violated here because we're still zoned single-family residential.
Okay. I'm seeing that now in General Statute 160D-910, so I'll defer to the law here, which permits the manufactured home. Okay. Mr. Wright, do you
Yes,
have
sir.
anything else that you need the planning board to know at this point?
No, I'm not, I checked with of course, I don't know this gentleman. He seemed like a nice guy, Mr. Flynn. He's on the left all the way down at the end of the road on Michelle Lane. And some of the other people here might be closer, but he's all the way down on the left. And he said in the writing, I own the land all the way to your land. That's wrong. Because it's a house in between our land and another house. And he's on the left side of the road all the way down a quarter of a mile, 2/10 and a half. So I'm not calling nobody no lie or nothing, but the truth is his land don't touch mine because his house is in between there.
Yeah.
Now, if he might own it all the way to the right, but Eddie Barker's got 7, 8, or 9 acres right there in front of mine all the way down, excuse me, on the left going down there. Going to buy my house, I'll buy my land, excuse me, and it's for sale. But, you know, I'm not calling him no lie, but just seemed like to me that's not true where he said his land is attached to mine. He's on the left side of the road, I'm on the right, and he's a quarter mile from me. That's all I got.
Okay. All right, you can take a seat, but,
Yes,
and
sir.
you'll have a chance to rebuttal. There's one person here who has signed up to speak against this application. Is Mr. Don Laster here? Please come forward, sir. Did you speak at the last meeting?
Yes, I did.
All right, then you're still under oath.
Okay.
And what is it that you want us to know?
Basically, I just came here tonight to see where this was going and see what you had to say
Okay,
on the
well,
matter.
I think from the evidence supplied, documentary evidence supplied by Mr. Wright, that you know that the restrictions no longer apply.
That's my understanding now.
Okay.
It expired a little bit before I got there.
All right, well, we'll discuss this momentarily, and then we'll vote on the application.
Okay.
Mr. Wright, I don't think that requires any rebuttal, do you? Okay. Members, any discussion? Questions? Any questions for the applicant? We can get them back up here again if you think you need to speak with them. I think we asked them a sufficient amount of questions at the last meeting.
Mr. Chair, it seems like to me that we, in looking over this, certainly the questions that I had were surrounding the, what were the restrictions, what were the legal encumbrances with those restrictions, and those questions got answered. And it seems like to me that the flavor of the community or the neighborhood is really not going to change that much by granting this. It's still going to be homes. And I think that, I think we got our questions, our main concerns answered with the statutes, and then we've got the attorneys, both in written form and John's comments. I think we've pretty much answered the crux of the problem that we had the last time we discussed this.
I believe you're correct. Any other comments or discussion? Philip, you look like you
Yeah,
have.
I guess for me, I just wanted to make sure we weren't hindering any of the other property owners' parcel values, and from my personal standpoint, I know this is just my opinion, but a commercial site directly on the Virginia line would affect values from a real estate standpoint, in my opinion, bigger than a double wide in this community. And it sounds like he's going to put a nice double wide. There's some other homes with, you know, I know we mentioned the center block and different things, so and that's not nothing negative. Just I don't think that a new double wide is really going to affect the property values based on what I'm looking at and my expertise.
Further discussion? Motion?
Mr. Chair, the Planning Board has reviewed the special use permits and adopts the following statements as required, or I make a motion that the Planning Board has reviewed the special use permit and adopts the following statements as required by the Rockingham County UDO and NCGS 153A 134 and 153A 1342. After considering Rockingham County adopted comprehensive plans in UDO, the Planning Board approves 2021-01. This action is consistent with the adopted Rockingham County Land Use Plan. After review of competent material and substantial evidence in the record, the board makes the following findings for the four conclusions necessary to approve a special use permit. Yes, that the use or development is located, designed, and proposed to be operated as to maintain, promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. The board finds with the approval of this, finds yes, the approval would permit would not impose significant harm to the neighbors and surrounding community. Yes, that the use or development complies with all required regulations and standards of this ordinance and with all other applicable regulation. The board finds that the proposed use is allowed use in a residential protected zoning district if a special permit is permitted, and that the conditions of the special use permit will ensure development that meets or exceeds all requirements and goals of the existing UDO, and that the Rockingham County Permitting and Inspections Department will ensure the structures and site meet or exceed all state and local standards of construction and design. And yes, that the use or development is located, designed, and proposed to be operated as to maintain and enhance the value of the contiguous property, or that the use or development is a public necessity. And the board finds that will the proposed business be compatible with or exceed the quality of existing developments in the neighborhood and have similar impacts as the surrounding business types? Yes, that the use conforms to general plans, land use, and development of Rockingham County is embodied in this chapter. And the Rockingham County UDO, the board finds, does the special use permit support the policies and guidelines of the urban transition land class and the intended use of the protected zone?
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the application for case number 2021-01. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. There being no opposition, the application is approved. The following are the guidelines for speakers for the next two cases. Any and all persons who would like to speak regarding any case heard by the Planning Board must sign the case file roster prior to the beginning of the meeting. Each speaker must be sworn in by the presiding board member prior to the case hearings. Additionally, each speaker must be recognized by the presiding board member prior to speaking. Unless otherwise specified, all testimony, evidence, and comments should be directed to the board chairperson or presiding board member. Each case will be presented to the board by a member of the planning staff. Following the staff presentation, the case applicant will be given the opportunity to brief the board regarding the case. Following the applicant's presentation, those who have signed up to do so will be granted the opportunity to speak against or in support of the proposal. If needed, the board chairperson reserves the right to set time limits for each speaker. After the public comment period is completed, the applicant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal. This will be followed by board discussion, motions, and voting procedures. At this time, if staff will please present the case number. Hold on, Carrie.
No worries.
200106.
2021-06.
Andrew, if you can put slides up and start on slide number 6. While that's happening, I'll just go over the case. This is a request for rezoning from residential agricultural to residential protected. Thanks, Andrew. It's just about a 42-acre property at the intersection of NC 700 and Loop Road, Loop. Parcels are located in the rural land class of the land use plan. There are no water and sewer utilities. The property owner is asking for this rezoning so that he can create a major subdivision there. At this time, he's considering 12 lots, I believe, but this zoning won't necessarily limit him to that. It'll limit him to average acre lots across the property. The next slide shows us a little bit more detail where the property is located and goes over the purpose and characteristics of the rural transition land class to accommodate existing residential neighborhoods and balance the need to retain the area's rural character. Characteristics of these lands are where residential development is grouped in existing neighborhood and crossroads settlements, and where it will occur in similar neighborhoods and settlements. And services in this area are characterized generally by being very limited. Next slide. The property, as you see, is located here at the intersection. Most everything, the acreage around it is residential agricultural. The community, the surrounding area is characterized by large lots, some subdivisions of smaller lots, kind of interspersed. Next slide. Gives you an idea of the topography of the land, which the developer is actually taking advantage of with his design, or at least what he's recommended so far. He's putting his smaller lots up along the road where the topography is better and clearer. Next slide, I think, is the preliminary. This is a preliminary sketch plan that just gives you an idea of the fact that the lots will be on existing roads and they're concentrated in the areas of least disturbance. Let's see, I think that is the last slide. Are we going to the, yes, that is. That's the last slide. So if you'll go back to the aerial slide, one before, I appreciate it, Andrew. Otherwise, the overall lot meets the requirements of the residential protected district. The sketch as proposed, and of course we will, a final subdivision will have to be reviewed by the TRC to ensure that lot sizes, frontages, setbacks, all the other requirements of the zoning ordinance are met. So this is an example of the fact that our ordinance requires zoning in order to subdivide. We talked about that with the land use plan a little bit, and we'll talk about it more when we discuss the UDO at the end of the month.
Carrie, could you put up
Questions for me?
Could you put up the sketch again? The site plan sketch?
The next slide.
Yep, that one. The 5 or 6 lots that front 700, are they going to have driveways?
They are, and currently we don't have any prohibition against that number of driveways along the road. But it is certainly an example for us to take under consideration as we,
Do you know what
Think
the
of
speed
areas
limit
like
is on
this.
700?
55.
50?
So do these lots incorporate the entire 41.77 acres? Am I reading that correctly?
they do, at this point, they
They
do.
just
Some of
divided the whole thing
the
up.
lots are larger than others to incorporate the acreage.
Yeah, there's 3 whoppers in there.
Yeah.
It goes throughout the entirety of the property.
That's probably mostly due to terrain.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
also,
where the larger lots are at the back where the land is more difficult to develop.
am I seeing a pond on there too?
Yeah. Well,
See, the pond
driveways,
will have to be buffered and taken care of at the subdivision stage. Any kind of ponds or streams that are required to be protected will be buffered. And that's done at the administrative level after we review, once a plat is submitted formally.
and likewise, I suspect that the driveway issues will be resolved with the final site plan.
That's correct. The driveway locations will be based on where the homes are located. And how the actual driveways to homes, the way this land lays out, and I don't know if Mr. McKinney are this evening or not, but it looks to me like they're going to be fairly evenly spaced.
Yeah. At this point, all we're concerned about is the zoning. I don't think we should get burdened with the details of
Right,
driveways
and I
all.
promise you that we can bring this up again when we're talking about the details of the ordinance. It's a good example. It'll be fresh in our minds.
It appears that no one has signed up to speak on this.
Okay.
No one has signed up to speak on this application, so if the board members, do you have any further questions for Carrie regarding just the rezoning? If not, we should consider a motion.
Can I ask if there was any comments that came in or anything? That was it.
No.
We didn't receive, Tim didn't report any comments to me. And I don't, just in our discussions, I don't believe that we had any.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. A motion, the planning board has reviewed the residential protected zoning amendment and adopts the following statements as required by North Carolina General Statute 153A-341 and 153A-342. After considering Rockingham County adopted comprehensive plans, the planning board recommends approval of case 2021-06. This action is consistent with the adopted Rockingham County Land Use Plan. This zoning amendment supports the intent and descriptions of the rural land class. The board considers its actions in adopting the proposed zoning amendment to be reasonable because the proposed use is an appropriate use for the land considering its effect upon the entire community as a social, economic, and political unit. The size of the parcel is appropriate for the district requested. The property for the request abuts properties that are currently zoned residential ag and residential protected. The board considers its actions in adopting this zoning amendment to be in the public interest because the proposed development has sufficient design features so as to be compatible with or exceed the quality of the existing developments in the neighborhood. The uses permitted in the residential protected district would have similar impacts as the surrounding residentially zoned properties. This would not impose significant harm on the neighbors and surrounding community. The proposed rezoning is designed to meet or exceed all requirements and goals of the existing UDO and the comprehensive plan. And on balancing the certain factors, it looks like he's not even requesting to put as many homes as he could on this large of an acreage tract. The compatibility of the zoning action with the comprehensive plan fits. The benefits and detriments resulting from the zoning action for the owner of the newly permitted property, neighbors, and surrounding community. So my finding is he's not even utilizing all he can, and this definitely fits for a residential protected.
I second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the rezoning application for case number 2021-06. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. There being no opposition, the application is approved, and the Rockingham County Planning Board will recommend to the commissioners that they approve this request. And now,
Andrew, we're on slide number 11.
we'll hear from staff on rezoning case 2021-07.
This is a zoning case for two parcels that are located along NC 87 near Gibbs Road and Vance Street Extension in Wentworth Township. The request is to rezone from neighborhood commercial and neighborhood commercial conditional, this is representing the two different zonings for the two different parcels, to heavy industrial conditional district. The parcels are located in the urban transition land class. Next slide. The urban transition land class is intended to provide, for future more intensive urban and economic development on lands that are at some point more likely than others to be scheduled for utilities. Lands being developed for urban purposes but do not yet have usual urban services. Lands necessary to accommodate population growth over the next 20 years. And again, typical municipal or public services may not be currently available, but it would be one of those areas that if we didn't fight to hold on to county properties, we probably won't get utilities because it would have to be from a neighboring municipality. The next slide shows us where the two parcels are in relation to this intersection. And the slide that shows the aerial photography under the next slide gives you a better idea of what the character is around this request. In your packet, I'm bringing mine up, there's a little bit more detail about what this, what the gentleman is requesting, and I don't know if he signed up or not, but the stated intent is to operate a machine shop, welding shop, sheet metal, with sheet metal fabrication. There are, do you have in your packet a list of conditions? You do, okay, so he has actually limited this rezoning to just two uses. If you look at this section of the staff report, following the maps, you'll see the uses in heavy industrial zoning district, where he's asking only to operate a machine or welding shop, machine shop, welding shop, and or sheet metal fabrication shop. So he's telling you exactly what he wants to do there. Are there questions for me?
Any questions for staff?
I have a question. Carrie, in the
Sure.
two parcels, On the front part of the left-hand parcel, there is a service station. They're not going to encroach on that service station with this, are they?
What did you ask me?
On the left-hand parcel,
The
there's a service station right there. They're not going to encroach on that service station or do anything to it.
Well,
They already own this, right?
if he doesn't, or whoever owns this property will own the entirety. And actually, that's a good thing, because if you do rezone it, that means that everything will have kind of a comprehensive same zoning. And it'll be up to them whether they want to make any changes to that service station. But I imagine if it's in good stead, in good shape, they'll retain it.
Well, do they have enough room to build a 24,000 square foot facility?
Yeah, that'll be determined when they probably haven't invested in a lot of site work yet, because we're waiting for to see what the result of the rezoning is, but they'll have to show that on a site plan to drawn to scale.
And could we, and I know it's dangerous to do this, but could we assume that since they're asking for the rezoning on both the parcels, that the sheet metal fabrication shop would be on the largest parcel and they just need access to the other parcel, to their other facility that's attached to it?
Not necessarily. I mean, it might make sense, but they still need to get driveway permits and get down to what the development's actually going to look like on the ground. So I really wouldn't want to hold them to an assumption like that.
Okay.
But I do trust that the technical review committee will look at this when they do get ready to design the site. There'll be required landscape buffers around the developed part of the site once they submit that plan for development. And there'll be a street buffer along the road. And it's very limiting what they want to use the property for, so they've got a lot of space to do what they need.
Can I ask this is Corey, can I ask a clarification question? So if they're only
Sure.
asking for machine shop, welding shop, sheet metal fabrication, then in rezoning that in both those parcels, does that shell station then fall outside of, or is it grandfathered?
It would be grandfathered, and in fact, we would want to make sure of that in the final decision, that the existing use of the property is maintained as an allowable use, as a permitted use. But that's a really good point, because technically, is the applicant here? Do they sign up?
Hold on.
Did anyone?
Oh, okay.
Hold on here.
Okay, so what I'm gonna suggest that when it's time to turn the mic over to you, that we add the service station as a permitted use, unless you intend to tear it down and replace it with something else. But and it would be part of the conditions tonight. We'd make that part of the record.
Okay, the way this is being presented.
Just a minute, please. Just a minute, sir.
I'm sorry, Paul, I just wondered if he was here so that we could call him later.
I haven't called him yet, but I will now. For
Okay.
the record, sir, please state your name and address.
Dennis Bracey. I live in Summerfield, 7005 Blacksmith Court in Summerfield.
Look, oh, you signed the wrong sheet. Who is Mike McKinney?
Mike was
That was the last case.
Oh, he signed the wrong sheet then. I'm not seeing your signature here, sir.
Oh, so Mike is the builder who's requesting the rezoning that you just passed, that you just recommended approval for.
All right, and what was your name again?
Dennis Bracy.
B-R-A-C-E-Y?
CY.
Okay. And what was your address again?
Excuse me?
Your address?
7005 Blacksmith Court in Summerfield, 27358.
Okay, and what would you like us to know about your application? Sorry.
Well, what you're looking at and what you're discussing is not what was presented on my application. There's 2 lots. Can I approach that drawing over there?
Sure.
My application should have this lot completely rezoned. I'm not buying that entire lot. It's owned by Quality Oil Company in Winston-Salem. What I presented and what they're wanting to do with me, you can almost see a line mark across here. That's a Hudson field on the back side of that line. What we're really doing is buying just this little area right here and this lot. I own Isometrics, which is located right here. So we own all of this land up to here. It's contiguous with both properties. I want to locate a 24,000 square foot manufacturing facility here. Now, if I had to, I could go across the back of this and get to it. But Quality Oil, I've met with them and they were very receptive, and it's a kudzu field. And I'm going to put, if this works out, I'm going to put a nice fence across here and put crepe myrtle trees all the way along that border. But the application states that this is affecting 3.7 acres. It's actually 2.6 because I'm not buying this front part.
Okay, well, let us, give
There we
us,
go.
Continue maintaining their, my application has it correct. I haven't seen this.
The application, there are 2 applications. One is for 1.88 acres, and the other is for a half acre.
Correct. And that's,
Carry that
half
to-
acre is on the back of track A, what I just pointed out.
okay.
So Quality Oil is going to continue, that's their property, and they're not selling that. But they are very receptive to us being beside them, behind them, and we're already on the other side of them.
Okay. From the larger tract, will you need a driveway onto 87?
Well, yes, I would like to have a driveway there, but we already have 2 driveways.
I know, I've been by your property many times.
Okay, so you see here and here.
Yeah.
We would have a driveway here, but what I want to do is come across here, because if I put the building here and didn't get that access, I don't want to be coming out the highway. But yet I could go around the backside and come down.
Yeah.
But I got this lot under contract first, and then when I went to Quality Oil, they were very receptive. They said, sure, we'd like to help you out. That's fine, no problem. We're not using it as kudzu.
Okay.
Let's see.
So that actually answers my question from before.
Okay.
Is that the right-hand parcel that you're purchasing is just to give you better access from your first facility down to the next facility?
Yes, all I'm going to do
Yeah.
on the, basically what I'm going to do on the lot on the left is just an access to get from here. It'll primarily just be like a gravel road, probably, just to get over here. I'm not planning on probably building any buildings here.
Okay.
Here's one thing I do want to clarify, that that the application, and you're right, that 3 acres that's on the staff report is not correct based on the application. The application is a total of 2.38 acres that you're asking to rezone. Is that verified?
Track B, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just our outline doesn't reflect that, but, and I'm saying this to John Morris and to Paul, when you make a decision on this, you'll be making a decision on the request that is made in the application. And I see that you've got a site plan referenced, and I apologize that that's not in this packet, but I assume that means that we have a surveyed a survey that represents the acreage you're asking for?
Yes, I've had the property surveyed, and that, when I did the site plan, I indicated it was about 0.5 acres. It ended up being, I think, 0.667 acres on the back.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we've established correctly the meets and bounds of the property that you're asking for is represented in the application.
Yes.
So, and I apologize for that misunderstanding about the way it's represented on the screen. Did everyone understand when he explained that? I couldn't really see it, but that's okay.
So, Carrie, just to clarify, it's the .88 acres plus the .667 that Mr. Bracy just told us about for a total of 2.55 or 2.547, is that correct?
I had, based on the application, 2.38.
1.88 plus .5.
I believe the application's in your staff report.
It's .50, but he just said it's, you had it surveyed and it's .66.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think, John Morris, that we can make sure and shore up this application versus site plan and make sure before the Board of Commissioners that that's really 100% tightened up, that we've got an accurate depiction of exactly what acreage we're talking about. Are you comfortable with that?
What goes in front of the commissioners is what they review and what they either vote to approve or disapprove. So whatever goes in front of the commissioners is what they're going to be voted on. So that needs to be tightened up and squared away.
Yeah, and I think as long as, my question is whether you consider that based on what's reflected in the application, that the zoning board or the planning board is recommending the same case that the Board of Commissioners will be considering. I don't think there's a substantive difference between what they're looking at and what the commissioners are going to be looking at.
All we have to do, Carrie, is add a condition in the motion that the correct acreage is subject to the meets and bounds defined in the most recent survey.
Good, and if you're comfortable with the basic intent of the zoning and the way it's described, and John is comfortable with that, then we can still say it's the same case.
Okay.
This survey that we just had done by C.E. Robertson, I think out of Eden, they've already this week filed it with the Register of Deeds office. So
Okay.
it is on record.
Okay.
It's actually, I'm looking at it here, it's .663 acres.
Okay.
It's the backside of that lot.
Okay.
I can probably look at that while we're, so you already created a
Do you have a
subdivision for
copy?
it.
Do you have a copy of that survey?
I do.
You can leave with us, James, if you would, please. Carrie, the evidence collected tonight, I'm going to give to John Morris, and he can get it in your hands.
Okay, super, including the document that the gentleman brought about the special use permit
Yes.
from the last, okay.
Yes.
What would this plat have been served, the survey been recorded under what name?
Hold on. Quality Oil Company?
Okay. Here it is. And you say it was surveyed this year?
Just a few weeks ago, and in fact, I think the surveying company contacted me last week and asked if the survey was correct, so they could record it with the Register of Deeds office. Now, they asked me that Thursday or Friday. I can't be for sure they got it recorded yet.
Carrie, it looks like
Look at this.
it's 80,
If I can share my screen, I can show everybody exactly what we're talking about.
yeah.
Is that possible, Andrew? I don't see why not.
You should be good.
Let me just get it to where it's going to be clear and readable.
What is it, 87, 83, is that right, Carrie?
Yeah, I can't look at it very well in the, I have to open it up in my, here we go. I have to open it up as a PDF in order to see it. But you can see the service station is on there. There we go. It is 87 at 83, that's correct.
Carrie, I have a quick question.
Sure.
If the total acreage on parcel B is 2.105, and of course that's including the right of way,
Yeah.
is it okay to rezone with just what's left over when you take away the right of way?
Yeah, and his application reflects that correctly. It's 1.8. And then 0.66. Yeah, I think that's what we've got.
So that's a total of 2.543 acres?
Correct, 2.554. Now this add-on, so you're going to be adding that half an acre onto your existing business. Is that zoned industrial currently?
Yes, it is zoned heavy industrial. All the property
All right.
to the left as we're facing the drawing is already zoned heavy industrial.
Okay, beautiful. So that makes it a little bit clearer. Can you see my screen? This to the board members, am I sharing it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. There's the service station, and so the intent is to add this acreage onto the existing zoned business and then have this for access, for expansion, for whatever future use you may have, and just to set the value of that property as an industrial property.
Correct, yes.
So I'm not worried about the meets and bounds now and what we're talking about. I think the application is correctly.
Any more questions for staff or the applicant, Mr. Bracy?
When referencing this, should we reference the plat book recorded in book 87, page 83?
That's a great idea. And they're rezoning
Yes.
parcel
Mr. Bracy.
A and parcel B.
Further questions?
Yes, I had a question.
Yes, James.
On this area marked off, what particular area will be chain link fence installed? Will it be the front? Will the fences be beside of the Quality Oil, where the crepe myrtles will be behind it, or what's your plans for fencing?
We'll only require it around the perimeter of whatever becomes developed.
The fence around isometric as it is now comes down the highway. That would driveway going in here. But the fence comes to the line, goes back to this corner, comes over to, like that, comes over. Moving on.
That's not fair. I can't hear those things that are funny. I don't know if this helps.
Like that.
Yeah.
Just keep it right there.
Okay, now what I'm going to do, the fence is already coming to here, and it goes this way a bit, and then goes back, well, it comes over here, it goes back to this back property. What I'm gonna do is, right here, the fence will come across the kudzu line, as I said earlier, and Quality Oil just wants me to put bright myrtle trees around, off the front of it, and make it really nice there. When it gets to this corner, it'll come down. Well, there's an 80-foot offset off the highway. That's one of the conditions. The only reason for that is Quality Oil does not want to be obscure or anything in front of them so cars coming up down the highway can't see that it's a service station. So I've got to stay 80 feet back. So I'm going to come across the front of it with a fence 80 feet back. But on the building we're proposing to build will be off the property line here and come down to the 80-foot mark and come across and back up. That's a 24,000 square foot building.
Oh, you got to go back, Carrie. There you go.
Okay. So
Do you want me to go back to the plat?
No.
come down to the 80-foot mark, come across to
Leave it
the
there.
side of the property. There's already fences here because of these other commercial industrial buildings. But we'll go with our own fence all the way back to this corner, come all the way back to here, and then go that way. So we're gonna take out from here to here, yeah. And then come down here, cross it up here, or back up to here.
Right.
So it'll still be completely surrounded by fence.
All right. Okay.
No, and your packet has a letter from Isometrics dated December 8th
Yes.
explaining, yeah, explaining this as well. So, and I've been out of the office, and I apologize to you, and this is, the flavor of this is actually, obviously, it's expanding an existing operation and has positive economic development impact for the county.
Absolutely.
We're looking to, we're in the process hoping, and we're down to the final 2 or 3 companies, but I believe we'll prevail with it and we'll get a new contract. I need to expand to be able to perform on the contract, but we're going to be hiring another 50. I'm trying to be conservative. It could be 60 or 80 more people that would be working in
Yeah.
the facility.
As a manufacturing operation, it'll be very good for job.
Always wondered what those trucks were up on the hill when I go by.
Well, everything we build is about is for the U.S. military,
Yeah.
and what
I
we be
suspected as
building in
much
this new
based on the
facility.
paint color.
Looks, you see those tan tanks that are in the front now, they are ISO containers that the Army uses, and what we be building is something very similar, except it's drinking water, potable water for the U.S.
Oh, the
Army.
hippo containers.
Yeah.
It'll look just about like that.
Thank you, sir.
Hey,
Discussion, members? Motion? Philip, if you got the plat number in front of you and all that?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Would you
sir.
mind making the motion,
Yeah. Let me get all this.
since you've got the numbers in front of you?
Yep. Y'all correct me if I don't reference something right, just don't want to make sure I got this one.
Carrie, does Philip need to reference the, since there actually is a change in acreage, does he need to reference the exact acreage?
No, just the plat number, because
Okay.
it's all right
Just
here
the,
on the...
just the plat,
Okay,
that's
got it.
right. Thanks, Julie, but the plat will be sufficient.
Okay.
Does that come at the end? I'm sorry, it's just not clear on this sheet. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I would put it
Yeah.
right at the end.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring that back up again, yeah. When you, actually, when you make the motion for this and such case, add, with the condition that the acreage represented on the plat is what's being requested for rezoning. And you can do it at the beginning or the end, Philip.
Okay. All right. I'll probably do it at the end. The planning board has reviewed the heavy industrial conditional district zoning amendment and adopts the following statements as required by North Carolina General Statute 153A-341 and 153A-342. After considering Rockingham County adopted comprehensive plans, the Planning Board recommends approval of case 2021-07. This action is consistent with the adopted Rockingham County Land Use Plan. The zoning amendment supports the intent and descriptions of the urban transition land class. The board considers its actions in adopting the proposed zoning amendment to be reasonable because, A, the proposed use is an appropriate use for the land considering its effect upon the entire community as a social, economic, and political unit. B, the size of the parcel is appropriate for the district requested. And the property for this request abuts properties that are currently zoned neighborhood commercial, highway commercial, heavy industrial, conditional district, and residential agriculture. The board considers its action in adopting the zoning amendment to be in the public interest because the proposed development has sufficient design features so as to be compatible with or exceed the quality of existing developments in the neighborhood. The uses permitted in the heavy industrial conditional district would have similar impacts as the surrounding residentially zoned properties. This would not impose significant harm on the neighbors and surrounding community. The proposed rezoning is designed to meet or exceed all requirements and goals of the existing UDO and the comprehensive plan. Additional comment section. I'm going to reference the acreage to be recorded in Plat Book 87 and page 83 in the Rockingham County Register of Deeds system. That is .663 acres plus parcel B.
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the application, rezoning application for case number 2021-07. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. There being no opposition, the planning board will recommend to the commissioners that the application be approved. We have no old business to discuss. Under new business, update on land use plan and UDO. I want to remind everybody that our workshop meeting in 2 weeks is going to be held at 6:30, not 7 o'clock, so mark your calendar, 6:30. John, let me give you these. Oh, okay. I thought he was leaving us, sorry. Yeah, mark your calendars for 6:30 for the workshop.
What's the date on that again?
22nd.
Yeah.
And who would like to make a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. The vote's unanimous. We're adjourned.